Well, it was a Yahoo Sports blog. They do their NBA blog called Ball Don't Lie. I believe it was Kelly Dwyer was the writer of the article, and he's got a bunch of links to various sources. Mark Sherman, I believe, is the first one who reported it. It's no secret that as much as Isaiah Thomas hasn't been the general manager of the Knicks in about 7 or 8 years, he's never really left the organization for some reason. James Dolan, the brilliant owner of the New York Knicks, loves Isaiah with a passion because, we know Dolan knows nothing about basketball, but somebody told him Isaiah knows something about basketball, so he listens to him. He's been the unofficial advisor for a while. He actually assisted in some of the executive office personnel decisions. The current Knicks GM, Glenn Grunwald, actually worked under Isaiah in Toronto when Isaiah was the GM of Toronto. So he's never really left the organization, and as a matter of fact, the only assistant GM who actually did not like the idea of Isaiah Thomas coming back was a man by the name of Scott O'Neal, who actually resigned a few months ago. He was the only one really fighting for Jeremy Lin. He's kind of the one who was credited with discovering Jeremy Lin. But I guess
Jeremy Lin was in the league. He got cut from a couple other teams.
Well, I think Scott O'Neal started on one of the other teams that Lin was on, and he lobbied to bring him in and lobbied to give him minutes, stuff like that. And I think he may have been the only one really seriously considering matching the Rockets offer sheet, but I'm not sure on that. But this article talks about that, and he's never been an Isaiah fan. O'Neal was generally the one who thought that the Knicks should distance themselves from him. But I guess the writing's been on the wall in the organization for a while. I guess Isaiah and Dolan may have been spending more time together. O'Neal finally got sick of it. He resigned a few months ago. The article kind of goes into detail and gives you a link to some of the other sources that this article has. But if you look at the team, they actually did a great job of comparing this team to the one that Isaiah presided over. The front court, rather than Eddie Curry and Jerome James, they now have Tyson Chandler and Amari Stoudemire. Instead of Jalen Rose and Antonio Davis, they brought in Marcus Camby and Jason Kidd. And what was the other one? Instead of Jamal Crawford, they have J.R. Smith and Carmelo Anthony over there. And it is kind of they're all obviously overpaid. They're all older, but obviously this Knicks generation is slightly better than the old one because the old one was terrible. And they didn't even mention Stephon Marbury in that, which is a good thing. No one's really disputing that. But listen, the bottom line is the report was actually denied by the Dolans. So Isaiah Thomas will not be coming back as GM right now, but if you read the denial article that I got from ESPN.com, I believe I sent you that link as well, it basically, the source that they quote says that Isaiah will probably wind up being GM at some point, and it does sound like it may wind up being sooner rather than later, but it says right now at the moment Isaiah doesn't want to do it. So how maddening is that apparently the only thing stopping Isaiah from being GM today could be him not wanting to do it? That's a frightening thought right there. Eric, I know he told me you're a Knicks fan. I'm scared to death, man, by the thought of him coming back. We don't have a draft pick for
It's the fact that he's already been an advisor to Dolan for so long, and he's been involved in all the trades they've made. He's had input on everything. It doesn't necessarily scare me as much as it did years ago, the thought of it, because
you're just used to it.
He's involved in all the planning and all the decision-making anyway. So, I mean, the way I look at it is, do I want him there? No. Would I prefer just about anybody else? Probably. But for whatever reason, Dolan loves this guy.
And I don't know
why. I don't know what he's got over him, but Dolan loves this guy.
I mean, they've both done a great job of destroying a lot of the credibility of this franchise over the last decade. And at some point, I mean, listen, you can't do anything about Isaiah Thomas if he does come back because it's freaking idiot Dolan who wants this. And Dolan is the worst thing that ever happened to the Knicks franchise from every bad personnel decision. I mean, Isaiah Thomas was kind of that was kind of the cherry on top, basically.
And he was also the face of the issues, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He really was. I know Dolan's sort of the background guy, but Isaiah Thomas was the face of things. I really, when I look at this and when you first told me about this, the first thing I thought is, you fool me once, shame on me. You fool me twice, or however that saying goes. And to me, that's pretty much what you're looking at right now is the fact that it's like whatever is making Dolan think that Isaiah Thomas is a good option for this Knicks team, and as Eric pointed out as well, the idea that he's been quote unquote advising the Knicks even after he left, is just to me it's sort of like, have you not figured out the point that this guy is not getting you where A, you want to be, and B, where your fans expect you to be on a yearly basis? Like, Knicks fans are not greedy about their Knicks. They want them to be a relative competitive team year in and year out. They're not sitting there saying, where the hell's a championship? Because it's been so long that it's like, look, let's get consistent first before we sit there and worry about getting a championship. At least I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm a Bulls fan. And me personally, the Jordan era was done, and I sat there and accepted the fact it's going to be a long time before we bring another title to Chicago. And then, I thought the Derrick Rose thing got started. I'm like, all right, awesome. But mentioning Derrick Rose reminds me, Isaiah Thomas and Dolan are the ones that traded the Bulls that number one pick that was able to let the Bulls get Rose, and the Knicks in return got Eddie Curry. And that's
Jerome James for 5 years, $29 million after he had 3 great games in the Seattle playoffs after doing nothing the 3 seasons previous. Steve Francis coming in, Jalen Rose coming in. There's so many terrible trades. And I just want to go back to one point you made. Unfortunately, the advisor thing, we all remember the credit that they gave him at the press conference when they introduced Carmelo Anthony after the trade. They basically acted like he was the one who orchestrated the trade himself. So, yeah. Now, the Yahoo article actually starts out in a great way. Why would they bring him back? They've already been zeked, they called it. Already been zeked. And it's true. They don't have a first-round draft pick for the next 5 years, in part because of everything Isaiah did and everything Donnie Walsh had to do after it to fix his mess up. So, they had to give up a first-round draft pick in the Tracy McGrady trade, a trade that was done just to get a lot of salary off the books that year. And, let's be honest. The Knicks are back in salary cap penalty territory. They're going to be getting the luxury tax for as long as Chandler, Melo, and Amari are under contract, which is great and everything.
But I don't think that necessarily the luxury tax bothers Dolan because the guy's just got more money than he knows what to do with.
Remember, though.
So he don't mind spending it.
Remember, though, that was his excuse for not bringing Lynn back because of the $14 million option in the third year.
And if he could drop $100 million on Allen Houston like it was nothing years ago, I'm pretty sure that I think it was a deeper issue with Lynn. I don't think that they thought he was worth the money that he was
and I'm sure Melo wanted him out of town, too.
Listen, I don't think Lynn was worth that kind of money. He played 25 games.
Yeah, that's
it's
actually
it's not like you have an entire season where you can look at a sample size and say the guy put up 20 and gave us 10 assists with 3 or 4 rebounds, and the guy played less than half a year. I don't see justified giving the guy $25 or $28 million and matching an offer. The reason the Rockets did that is to try and spend the Knicks' money. Well, they got caught and got stuck with him. They had Lynn once already. They cut him.
Yeah, they were
cut
actually
him a year ago.
They were the last team to cut him before the Knicks picked him up.
They cut him. We picked him up. He has 25 good games for us. And all of a sudden now he's a $25 million man. No, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work in my mind. Plus, I like... I'm sorry. Just one more thing. I like Raymond Felton, actually.
I do, too.
I like what he was able to do before they traded for Melo. And I think he could be better than what Knicks fans are expecting.
Now, I absolutely agree with the Raymond Felton. I thought the best thing they could do when they knew they weren't getting Lynn back was go out and get Raymond Felton because, like you said, he was really good with Amari the first time, and I didn't think they should have put him in the Melo trade in the first place. But I think the problem they're going to have, and I think the large reason why Lynn didn't get out, because let's remember, NBA loves to overspend money, and they do it with people who don't even have the sample size that Lynn has. You look, Amir Johnson got a big contract from Toronto a few years ago. I think it was like 3 years, $12 million. Can you really say he's worth $4 million a year? No. Guy plays maybe 20 minutes a night.
A lot of NBA teams give contracts out to guys that
Yeah.
You sit there and you just, I mean, to me, being a Bulls fan, I look at the Carlos Boozer deal that he signed. Are you, like, they gave him 5 years, $45 million or something like that. And you're like, dude, he's, by the time that contract ends, he's going to be 34 years old. No disrespect to you, Boozer, but 34 years old trying to pound the paint with likes of Roy Hibbert and some of these other young centers that are coming up.
And he had knee problems coming in.
Yeah, like, you got to be kidding me.
No, very true. I was just saying, like, I get that it was probably an astronomical amount of a large amount of money. But the fact is, I mean, when you look at some of the other contracts that had gone out, I didn't think it was so much more ridiculous than the other ones. I mean, Raymond Felton got basically the same contract when he first signed with the Knicks. I'm not saying Lynn is as good as Felton is. I think they may both be at the same level, truthfully. So I didn't really think that contract was much. Obviously, Felton's done it over a larger period of time. He's also had a lot of inconsistencies. That period with the Knicks really was his most consistent period of his career. And you could look through his time with Charlotte. He didn't do too good with Portland last year. So he's not, like, he was a good fit with Amari. I really wonder how he's going to fit in with Melo. But I look at them both as being very on the same level. All
right. Well, let me say something real quick. Shout out to everybody in our chat room contributing to this conversation. Pixel Junkie actually agrees that he believes that Raymond Felton is a better fit for New York, as well as Khan, our buddy out in Turkey right now, listening to us. The thing about Lynn, and I'm going to go back to a point that Eric made, was the small sample size that you had. Teams were not offering Jeremy Lin the contract that he got offered from Houston and what the Knicks were trying to offer him and so on and so forth. He did not really get those offers strictly based on the concept of his talent on the court.
Marketing.
Exactly. Those offers are also based on what he financially can do for a team. It's sort of that mindset of you got to spend money to make money. And Jeremy Lin is that option. Even if the Houston Rockets are pretty much irrelevant next year, him alone being on their team is going to sell tickets. Even if they're 40 games below a winning record, like that bad of a year.
Yeah, no, they got him to basically be the next Yao Ming to bring in that whole contingent, the Asian American population, because they did a lot when Ming was there.
Yeah, and then you're talking remember that game in Toronto last year? I mean, if you watch the Knicks at all, that game in Toronto when Lin hits the buzzer beater, the whole freaking crowd erupts like they're New York Knicks fans. They're playing in Toronto, but they're all 90% of that crowd was there for Jeremy Lin. They didn't give a crap about who actually won the game.
And the thing is does he still have that love if he starts off next year and he's not playing so well, he's averaging 15 points a game? Is that same love still showing up in the crowd?
I think
I don't know.
That's
a good
point.
Because of the way he blew up last year and came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting it, playing in the D-League, sleeping on his friend's couch or whatever he was doing, or his family member's couch.
He hit some big shots that helped.
Yeah, that brought the Linsanity out.
Yeah.
Can he do that with Houston, though? It's easier to do, I think, and to be that kind of star with inside New York City, because New York City blows up. It's the Mecca.
Well,
it's the capital.
This is media center of the freaking world.
You got to remember, Houston is not going to be very good this year. They basically dismantled their roster trying to get enough assets to get Dwight Howard or some sort of big man. They wanted Bynum. They wanted Trey Gasol. They didn't get anything. They have Omar Asik, who they gave basically the same contract they gave Lin to him. So the Bulls would match. Yeah. So the Bulls wouldn't match it. So, honestly, I think Asik is going to be good, but he's never done anything so far. He averages 10 minutes a game most of the time.
Yeah, he's
the Bulls are so loaded.
Yeah, he's defense and rebound. He's not putting up points for anybody, and that's one of the things Houston was looking for was a center that can score.
So their roster is basically the two of them, Patrick Patterson, Chandler Parsons, and Kevin Martin. That's their lineup. Martin fell off last year. He had some terrible nights last year. Yeah. So it could be a very long season for them this year.
All right, so
I anticipate it being. I don't see him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't. The West is.
They're
going to
be fighting for lottery picks this year.
The West is really deep too. So you know what? Bottom line of what we were really getting into, we sort of spinned into the Jeremy Lin thing. There are talks, ladies and gentlemen, that Isaiah Thomas may return as the Knicks GM, and I think the three of us are in a unanimous agreement that for the Knicks that would be a bad idea. And as Eric pointed out, really Dolan needs to just knock Isaiah Thomas out of all basketball aspects of his life. Now, if they want to stay friends,
I mean, the sad part is that that's not going to happen, though. James Dolan, for whatever reason, respects Isaiah's opinion. Now, granted,
I think a better solution would be Knick fans rise up, lynch the Dolans, and just take over the team. That would be a much better idea.
Let Knicks fans run the Knicks team. That would be
awesome.
awesome.
They can't do a worse job than the Dolans did.